Good evening and welcome to the Psych Golf Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course I'm sitting down with Alejandra on her new book, You Can't Make This Shit Up. How are you, darling?
I'm great. How are you tonight?
Doing well, doing well. So it took you 3 years to get to this book. Was that because of the workload or because you had to figure out how to put it?
It took me 3 years to write it. Because I kept saying no when Spirit kept asking me to write it. I just said, no, thank you. What else would you like me to do? But I don't want to do this.
Right.
So it took me 3 years to stop fighting it and to figure out what I was supposed to write about. You know, I was in the middle of a meditation and I was new to meditation, the way that all this started. And I was sincerely asking, I just turned 50. And I had to have very unexpected cervical fusion. So I've got a big plate in my neck with 6 screws and cadaver bones and mesh and all the fun stuff that comes with that. And I was recovering from that. And our son had graduated from college. So I was truly asking, like, what am I doing now? You know, I'm kind of done with the mom gig. What's my next step? I'm recovering from this. I'd closed down my design business. And Archangel Michael actually came to me in the meditation and said, you're going to write a book. And I said, yeah, no, thank you. So not interested in doing that.
Right.
What else you got for me? And I came back the next day for meditation. And like for 5 days in a row, this happened. And finally, I just said, what am I supposed to write a book about? Like, you know, who cares what a white, privileged, middle-aged woman has to say? Like, you know, my life has been pretty good. Like, who cares? And I got told to just start writing down what happened to me. And that's where this title came from, because then the stuff that started happening to me, I swear if somebody had asked me to write a movie script, I couldn't have come up with what was happening and the way it was happening, which is really cool, you know, as my spiritual awakening kind of started and unfolded. So yeah, I had to let things happen first. And then I had to tie things back to things that happened as a child that I didn't realize were spiritual. Like seeing dead people, I just kind of assumed everybody saw them. So it wasn't a thing I ever talked about because I didn't know that I was maybe in the smaller minority of people who can see them, you know, and who have those kinds of experiences when people have passed, who they come to. So you know, it took a minute to kind of connect all the dots and put it all together.
Right, it does. Because at the same time, you know, it's like people will ask me, well, what's it like to be psychic? And I'm like, what's it like not to be psychic?
Right.
Yeah. You know, what's it like to, you know, not have your grandmother pop up into your kitchen and complain that you're putting too much salt on you know?
Or your mom giving you all the song titles for the books. My mom gave me every single chapter for the book, and it came to me through song titles.
Right.
You know, and song verses. And I was like, why am I hearing this song? What in the world am I hearing this song for? What do these lyrics mean? I've never heard this song. I'd have to look it up. And sure enough, it was completely relevant to whatever I was writing about at the time. And my mom had passed, and my dad passed too at this point. So that's okay. Thank you. It was a long time ago. But she said she wanted to come to me through music. So I was like, oh, okay. So yes, you just kind of get used to it after a while, don't you? It's kind of fun. And don't you miss them when they're not around? When they're not around for a while, I'm like, hey, where's my dime? You guys haven't thrown me a dime in a while. Like, where are you? You know?
Yeah. Some of them, yes. Most of them, it's like, no, you can go do your own life over there. I'm tired of your input. I had it for 20 some years.
I agree with that one too. But for the most part, the people who I feel around me all the time are my parents and my in-laws. And I like having them around. They're funny. They do funny
They're decent.
stuff.
They're decent.
Yeah.
So what was your process?
Honestly, never having written a book, never having thought about writing a book, I just sat my ass down and started writing. I just wrote down whatever happened that day, and some days, literally, the entry was absolutely nothing happened. Or I went to yoga. But the process was, I guess, to be consistent about writing something down on paper, even if it was just a sentence,
Mhm.
or I really don't want to do this today. And then other days, chapters and chapters and chapters came through
Mhm.
because I would remember things, or I had been working with healers on something, and that led to a whole other experience, and
Right.
the unfolding. I was adopted as an infant by my parents, so
Uh-huh.
unbeknownst to me, when I went to go work with healers thinking I was just going to learn new modalities, all this inner
Mhm.
child stuff came up, and very,
Right.
very deep trauma, and trauma of abandonment, and trauma of rejection, that I'm like, no, of course not. I don't have that. They're like, yeah, you do. Here it is. It's showing up, and mother
Right.
wounds with the biological mother. And I'm like, no. They're like, yes, here it is. So having to go through all that became another layer of
Mhm.
the book. And I
Yeah, and
actually just,
were you able then to like reflect back and go, "Oh yeah, maybe I too," because when I dated this one, I had a tracker on him and looking at all those past behaviors that you just thought were normal.
so not so much the dating, because I started dating my
Uh-huh.
husband when we were in college and I was 18, and we've now been married 34 years together, 38. So not so much on the dating front. But in other ways, in how I dealt with people, and how I handled if I wasn't included in something, like it
Uh-huh.
would be the end of the world. And I'm like, why am I so triggered by this? Like,
Right.
you know, so understanding that that came from a much deeper place.
Hmm.
And I did
Right.
a podcast for adoptees where we really did a deep dive on this. And it is very interesting to see, like, you think you're going in to do one thing and something else completely happens. And, you
Hmm.
know, and hopefully that's another layer of the book that will help people too,
Right.
who are dealing with that, whatever their trauma is, whether it's big T, little t, whatever you're dealing
Right.
with, but doing the work. So all of a sudden, I did have all this material to write because I was experiencing all these things, and I was trying all sorts of
Hmm.
stuff. I was trying past life regressions, and wowza, one of my favorite things to do. And I've led some very interesting lives. Um,
Uh-huh.
Reiki, just whatever modality called to me, I was trying.
Uh-huh.
And that all became part of it, because the other part of the book was I wanted people to understand, and I'm sure you can relate to this too. It's that when you are going through a spiritual awakening, it's
Hmm.
lonely. It's lonely. And even
Very.
people who are the closest to you, I went to my very first past life regression, and it was all about using my voice, which is so funny again, since I'm fused
Hmm.
right here, right?
Right.
And it was, and my root chakra is fused. So I have a lower lumbar fusion too. So my root chakra, which is security, which goes back to adoption issues,
Right.
and my throat, using my voice, both completely fused, full of cadaver bones, full of
Hmm.
titanium. So I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I feel like there's a connection in there somewhere. Um, but I came back and I told my husband what happened at this past life regression. And it was all about, you have to use your voice. You have to tell your story. You are here to help other people. My name
Right.
actually means helper of mankind. Alejandra means
Right.
helper of mankind. And the first thing he said to me is, oh my God, but you're not going to tell anybody this, right? They're going to think you're crazy. And I'm
Right.
like, I just got told to use my voice,
Right.
and you come home and it's purely out of love and concern for me that I get told to shut it right back down. Right.
Right. And
So
it's like that's not how this gets to work, hubby.
right. But that's the part that becomes very lonely,
Hmm.
is, you're feeling called to do these things, and the people who love you and care about you are scared for you, are worried about you, and
Right.
they're like, don't rock the boat, don't talk to people
Hmm.
about this, they're going to think you're crazy, they're going to think you're evil, they're going to think you're a witch, they're going to, you name the
Right.
word. And
500 other things.
right, and I had to at some point just go, yeah, you're right, some people probably will, and I'm okay with that, and I'm going to
Right.
do it anyway. And I hope you're okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, let's have a conversation. Are we still the right partner for each other? Did we
Mhm.
outgrow each other? We've been together for over 3 decades, almost 4. And he said, no, I'm fine. Do what you need to do, and I'll support it. I was just more worried about you. And I get that, you
Right.
know, you know, um,
Because it's like, is this, and I don't know. It's like when I start delving into other things, my hubby was always like, have you lost it? And it's like, no, not lost it. I know exactly where I put that book.
Right. But it is hard, and it is
Right.
challenging, and there's no way around it. I don't sugarcoat it, and I go into some of the stories when I talk about there are friends and there are family members that I've lost along the way. And I've had to be okay with that too. But on the return side of things, I've also now have a tribe of people who are more spiritually aligned and more spiritually inclined, and who I can have those conversations with. I was asked in another podcast, like, what do you say to somebody when you say spiritual awakening and their voices go blank? I go, absolutely nothing. You can tell by their face if they want to hear anything or not.
Right.
And I'm not
Or
here
if
to convince you. Yeah, I'm not here to convince you. I can tell. I'll bring up the subject. If people shut it down and ask me if I read the latest Gossip and People magazine, I'm like, okay, so we're not going to talk about this. That's fine. And I honor their journey and where they are, and we move on.
Very much so. So I have a question for you. Now that your house, this is the time we get to spill some tea here. Okay, my lovely husband, who will co-host the second part of the show with me, he's an atheist, believes none of this, but he will just pop up and go, "Get over and take care of that. Don't you have a money bath to go do? Did you forget to light your incense today? Like, people are annoying me." And I'm like, "You're not supposed to be doing that."
Yeah.
Does yours do that now?
Every once in a while. Yeah, he will. He will. He'll
Yeah.
definitely do that. He's like, "Where's the Palo Santo?" And I'm like, it's right here. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of came on board a lot more after his parents died, because we had a really cool thing happen. He kept one of his dad's cars just because he loved it, and it's a beautiful sports car. And then I went to Miraval. Have you ever been to Miraval, or do you know about Miraval out in Tucson?
I know about Miraval, but I've not been out there.
I mean, so that's my happy place. And that's where I went for my very first week of spiritual work. And I mean, wow, I thought I was just going to go and like dabble in modalities, and it was deep. And I was on the floor crying every single day that I was there, but what was needed. But I was talking to this world-renowned woman healer, and she said, "Oh, your husband has a car he's very attached to." And I said, "Yeah, he does." She goes, "Well, the person that car belongs to is the one that sends you dimes. You find dimes all the time, don't you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, that just kind of started happening." And the car belonged to my father-in-law. And so she goes, "The dimes are coming from him." And I came home and told him that. And ever since then, I swear, the longest we will go without finding a dime in the most random of places will be maybe a month. And I do mean random. I mean, we're undoing a bed in a hotel that's been beautifully made, and it's clean sheets, and there's a dime. I got in an elevator on Father's Day. There's a dime. I'm walking down the street because we were in Aspen last week. There's a dime. But there's nothing else around it. It's not like somebody dumped all their change. And dimes are not like the most common thing that you find.
No, not often.
And so he finds them, our son finds them, and I find them. And I was talking to my sister-in-law, his sister, when we were in New Orleans for our nephew's graduation. And as we're walking into the graduation, I find a dime. And of course, it's his daughter. And I go, "Oh my God, your dad sent me a dime." And so my son and my husband are like, "That's so cool." And she goes, "What are you talking about?" And so I told her, she goes, "Do you know that I just found a pile of just dimes the other day in an old coat in our house?" I'm like, "That's your dad, just letting you know that."
Right.
So I love that now,
Right.
So I think that helps people believe when there's a little bit of a sign that's tangible and a little bit of validation. I think that goes a long way to helping people accept what we can't see, taste, touch, feel.
Right. Just because we can't touch the primaries, there's other ones there, like scent. I'm sorry, we can smell them all the time, especially like if they were smokers or heavy coffee drinkers, and like you're no longer using that. Popping up, like the smell of cherry tobacco popping up in a house is so random anymore. Because there's very few pipe smokers nowadays. But we get that all the time. Or at least I get clients that get that all the time.
I love that. My dad was a pipe smoker, and I smell his pipe every once in a while. So it's funny you said that. Yeah. And my mom, her perfume, Estee Lauder, which who uses that anymore?
Right.
You know, it's a very distinctive smell. I'll open a drawer where her jewelry was, and she's been gone almost 19 years. So the jewelry no longer has any scent to it. But there comes the waft of Estee Lauder, and I'm like, oh, hey, Mom, how's it going? You know?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So what are you up to today? Where are you headed? Like, what are you up to doing? Because the book's out. You're doing a book tour. What else do you do?
By trade, was my day job. My day job is I've been interior designer for over 20 years. And at 50, I added feng shui to it. So I got certified in feng shui under a feng shui master. And now I'm also certified in biophilic design. So I kind of combine all three modalities in order to help people through their homes. So I'm as much an energy healer as a Reiki person or, you know, anyone else. I just do it by reading your house. Right. So I can come in and see what's going on. And we talked a little bit before we went on live that, you know, your house is a reflection of you. You are a reflection of your house. I can walk in, and even if we've never had a conversation, I can take a stab and probably come up with 3 or 4 things that are going on in your life just by looking at your surroundings.
Right.
You know.
So let's delve into that. What is that for maybe people that don't know what feng
shui?
Yeah, feng shui is.
It's a tough one. I know it took me a minute to get it straight. Yeah. So feng shui is actually an ancient practice that came from China thousands of years ago. Depending on what book you read or way you're taught, somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 years. It's been around for a minute. And it was originally developed to find like the most auspicious direction for an emperor's burial plot to face so that they would live in eternity. And then it went on from just the burial plots to where the palaces were going to be. Then it kind of kept, you know, getting into that was working. So then it's like, well, how about homes? Well, how about businesses? And it's kind of, you know, spread out that way. And there's a couple of main schools. I was trained by somebody who was trained by the person who brought feng shui to the United States. So the person who brought feng shui to the United States is Professor Lin. He came in the 80s to California, and my teacher studied directly under him. And it's a bit more westernized approach to feng shui because when he came over here, he found that most people didn't want to put their swimming pools in the front yard, which is where water is the most auspicious element in feng shui. Right. So he came up with a system that combined the old traditional ways of doing it with the Western home. So most of the homes that I deal with, even though I do consultations all over the world, they are a Western style home. And feng means wind, shui means water. So it is creating a balance of wind and water, kind of like if you think of a house on a hill, if you put your house at the very top of the hill, unseen forces like wind can take it away, right? If you have your house at the bottom of the hill and the river's right in front of you, seen forces like water can sweep it away. So it's finding that sweet spot of balance and harmony where you're going to feel protection and where your house is going to be energetically aligned to then open opportunities for you. So one thing a lot of people get wrong, if people have looked at feng shui on Instagram and, you know, online, it's not transactional. You know, if I put this right here, it doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to get money, which a lot of people think, you know, if I put this in this spot, then it's going to mean what you're doing is kind of working on your overall home to get it energetically aligned, removing blocks so that opportunities can find you. And it benefits everybody in the house. You know, a lot of people come to me and say, well, I'm into it, but my husband isn't. I'm into it. My kids aren't, you know, it doesn't matter. Whatever work you do in the house affects everyone in it, even the pets, which is what I love.
Right. You know, it's a full vibrational setup.
Absolutely.
You know? Now, let's talk a little bit of controversy, because there are some homes that I'm sorry, like there's a house in this neighborhood. I don't care. The best couple, the most in love couple can move into it. I'll guarantee you 7 months from then, there's a divorce that will happen.
There are things that, I mean, that can happen.
Yeah. We call it the divorce house because it's like it's signed a death warrant on that house. house.
It's so interesting. I wonder if it's missing the love and relationships area of the home.
I think it is.
So that would be the back right-hand corner. So here, I actually, just because we're talking about it, I'll pull it out. I created to date the only feng shui card deck. It's like an oracle card deck, but on one of the things that's in it is a Bagua map, which is how I work with feng shui. This is how we were taught. This is BTB feng shui. So the other thing I'll tell your viewers and listeners is find a style of feng shui that you like and stick with it. It gets very confusing when you're trying to take a little bit out of each school, and that's when you're going to get confused. And if you're confused, the energy in your home is confused. So find a style you like, find practitioners you resonate with, and follow them and kind of stick with that style. So mine is BTB feng shui. So the way we do it is we created a Bagua map. I didn't, but we work with a Bagua map. It basically divides your home or office or apartment, whatever your space is, into the 9 main life areas. So you have career as you're walking in your front door. You have skills and knowledge. You have family, wealth, and prosperity. And so wealth and prosperity means extra money, not just money to pay your basic bills, but like to me, wealth and prosperity means I just got to go to Egypt for 2 weeks. That's wealth and prosperity to me. To somebody else, it might be a boat. It means something different to everyone. Fame and reputation, how you are seen in the world, especially through business. Love and relationships. I think I'm going backwards because I'm trying to do this upside down. Love and relationships, which is, so that's what I'm wondering, if this area of the house is missing in this house, if there is no love and relationship area. Also, then you've got children and creativity, and that could mean wanting to have kids or creating projects. This area of my house actually had a huge blockage before I practiced feng shui on my house. And as soon as I cleared that blockage was when the book started coming together. So it also, creativity also is for projects, not just for children. And then helpful people and travel. My office, this space right now, happens to be in helpful people and travel. And, so many people come to me wanting money. Oh, and then in the center of everything is health. Because of course, if you don't have health, you can't do anything else, right? But so many people come to me wanting wealth, right? That's a big one. People come to me for wealth, health, and relationships. Well, great. You can put your orchid in the wealth corner in a gold pot. You can bury your coins, whatever you want to do. But if you don't have helpful people who are clients and vendors or whatever you need them for, well, you're not going to attain wealth. If you don't have skills and knowledge, you're not going to attain wealth. So what I love to tell people is don't focus so hypersensitively on one area. You have to kind of look at your space as a whole. But if that is a divorce house, I would be willing to say there's a couple things I can think of. There's arguing doors, which means if you try and open 2 doors at once, they bang into each other.
I'll guarantee that's a problem.
So I feel like there's arguing doors there. I feel like the love and relationships area may just completely be missing for it to be divorce after divorce in that house. And sometimes, which a lot of modern houses have this issue. Ours does too, but I have a cure, so I know how to fix it. If the stove and the sink are directly opposite each other, that can lead to arguments in the home and discord. And so, of course, discord and arguments can lead to divorce. So
what should be across from your stove then?
Well, you would just kind of ideally want them a little bit off from each other, just not directly across from each other. I happen to have that configuration because, people assume my house is perfectly feng shuied because this is what I do. No house is perfectly feng shuied. There's always going to be a little something, but there's ways to deal with it. And, depending on what's going on in a home, that's what I look at. And then that's what we go through in our consultations. But I'll give your viewers a quick tip. If you do have the sink and stove that are directly across from each other, you can run a line of red tape under the sink. And what that is doing is energetically blocking the energy from the two to kind of butt heads, because you've got fire and water butting heads. And it just kind of brings that energy to neutral between the two. You can also add a runner on the floor to kind of absorb some of that energy between the sink and the stove. So those are 2 quick and easy, very inexpensive ways to help mitigate that situation. You know, it probably won't fix it completely, but it's a start until you can get someone to come out and help you. I always like to give people something they can do till they can afford a consultation, or till someone can get to them. You know, if I'm booked out for 3 months, it's like, start with this till I can get to your house, just to help move the process along.
Balance the energy and stuff.
Just to help move the process.
Right. Now, what's your thoughts about moving stuff around in the home all the time? Keeping the energy flowing.
I love it. I'm a big proponent of moving things around. However, moving things around is not the end all be all. Like, feng shui is not about furniture placement. It's part of it, you know, but yes, I do like to go into my rooms that are not used very often, like a guest room or something like that. And I will shift things around. A very easy way to do this too, that I tell a lot of people, is if you don't have time, or if you're just overwhelmed by the thought, 27 things is what you want to move. That's the magic number in feng shui, is 27. It's an auspicious number. So if you're just like, how am I going to move 27 things around? I can't possibly move 27 things around. If you're in a time crunch, or you're in a pinch, or it just feels overwhelming, because to some people it might, take out all your plates, put them in a different order, and stack them back in again. Take out your mugs, put them in a different order, and stack them back in again. Your glasses, your silverware, you will get to 27 in no time. And again, it's the intention with which you do it. You will say before you start doing it, I am moving these things around to shift the energy in our space. So intention's 80% of it, right? The doing of it is just a physical representation of what you're energetically trying to achieve in the space.
Right. And it's a thing of you just trying to straighten it out.
Right.
Remove something for right now. What about like addresses? Is that a big thing in your school as much as in others?
I look at them. I certainly look at them and add them all up and see what they add to, you know, and that can give me an insight as well to what may be going on in the home. I don't ascribe to the fact that any number is good or bad. It just depends on what you want out of your life. Our last house added up to a 5, which meant a lot of change, but also a lot of travel, which I love that. You know, our address now is an 8. 8 means financial stability. 1 means you're going to really get ahead in life, but it also may be 1. You know, so I wonder what the numbers of that house add up to. I wonder if it's a 1.
Let's see. And this leads into another question, so we'll get there.
Sure.
That one, I think, adds up to 4. And then it added up, and then now it adds up to a 7.
So 7 is spirituality, which is, you know, nothing wrong with that either. But spirituality also comes a lot of times with a 7 with lack of resources. So I guess lack of resources could also be another reason why you would end up in divorce.
Most likely.
You know, 4 is, the Chinese view 4 as a bad thing. I don't. It means stability. You know, if you think of a table, it has 4 legs. If a chair, it has 4. So it's solid, it's foundation, it's family, it's stability. 9 is the highest number. 3, family, you know, the Trinity, the Holy Trinity. So again, there's no good. 6 is service oriented. So there's no good or bad. It just is, how is it reflecting? And you can always change it. If it's not reflecting what you want it to reflect, you can energetically take a piece of tape and add the number that you want to add to get the number that you want to get to. And I guess we should say this to the people listening, because like, you know what I'm talking about when I say we listen to 4. So if your address is 2202, that adds up to a 6. So what you want to do is add up all the numbers individually until you get to one number. So like 2 + 2 + 2 = 6. And that is one number. But like if it would have ended up being 15, then you add the 1 and the 5 and you get this one number, which would be a 6. So hopefully that makes sense to the people listening. Because, you know, you and I can go right into the shorthand of it, but people are like,
and it's because it's like,
you know?
But, you know, with this being rural, like this address list had 5 different addresses to it. So this
that's
has gone through a lot of energy changes.
Yeah, that's very interesting too, because most homes don't change
No.
their address.
Right.
So that's super interesting. I've never come across that where the address itself has shifted so many times. Super interesting.
Yeah. Like when I bought this house, it was Route 1, so 155. So 5, and that made that a 2. And then they came back through and they dropped the 1. So then we went to a 1. And then they came back in 911 does, and went to a 7 now. And it's interesting to watch the changes and then watch the house change.
Really? Isn't it amazing? I do think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I love to name our homes too. Do you have a name for your home? And if you don't, that's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I like to name them because that makes them feel more like part of the family too. And so this one's named Casa Shui. So
nice.
The Shui house, our other one was Gated Gardens because we had a lot of gardens. Our house in Sedona was Quail Run because we had this little family of quails that literally ran through our house every day, like in the backyard in the game trail. Cool. I love naming them. And again, I think the more that you can love on your home, the more your home will love you back and take care of you. So I just think the more that you can give love and pay attention and kind of, people name their cars, name their boats. Why wouldn't you name your house?
Well, no one have to pay attention to the house.
Right.
Like, I don't know. You start having a ton of water problems. You might want to check into the emotions of everyone going on at home.
And that's also financial leaks. Energy and financial leaks are water issues for sure.
Very much so. And, so all that starts turning in. Now, is that in the book too?
There's some feng shui in the book, but the book is really about my spiritual journey. But feng shui is what led to my spiritual journey. So there certainly are nuggets of feng shui in it, but it is not a book about feng shui. The card deck is. That's why I did the card deck, because the card deck is.
And we can get that on the site too.
You can get that on Amazon. You can get that on my website. Very easy. And my book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, my website. It's all over the place. But the card deck, I channeled in 3 weeks while I had shingles on this whole side of my face. Again,
oh my goodness.
Spirit was asking me to do something and I kept saying no. And so it shut me down by giving me shingles, just like it shut me down before by putting me in a neck brace. And I couldn't leave the house for 3 weeks. I looked like a monster. And in those 3 weeks, Spirit literally channeled through me what the whole card deck was.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. Here we go. So I've stopped fighting. When they tell me to do something now, instead of ending up in surgery or with shingles, I'm just like, sure, just send me the help I need to get this done. But I'm done fighting with you because I don't like it when you stop me because I don't listen until it gets pretty severe.
And it's so interesting because, I didn't start total, Spirit says, you're going to go be a reader. I'm like, no, that's a part-time gig. Like, that's for fun when I need,
Right.
I've maintained my grandmother's clientele. That's it. I'm not doing extra. Okay. Within 3 months, nursing career gone within 24 hours.
Oh.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
They're like, yep. Done. Yep. And it's like, all right, fine. Here we go. Let's go on to this next horse show.
Yeah.
But, Spirit does that. Like, it'll throw crap in front of you, like, when you're not listening.
Well, I think, and I hope I'm giving credit to the right person. Wasn't it actually Oprah who said, like, when Spirit will whisper and, if you're not listening, then it's going to talk a little louder until it yells at you. I mean, somebody said that and I think it was her. I'm not positive.
I believe it was her.
But yeah, I mean, I try not to get to the part where I'm being yelled at anymore because it's not fun.
No, they don't play games with it at all.
Like, I mean, the entire left side of my face, my neck, and my head, was just like a completely different shape, But
they'll cause that.
Yeah. But
and the number of people that work in this industry that have turned around and it's like they'll have massive car accidents, massive and it's like or out of body experiences, and it's like, yeah, you should have listened the first time we had a conversation.
Yep. So I'm trying. That is my constant challenge because it is so easy to get busy and it is so easy, to say no. I do have mediumship abilities. I have not wanted to do that as a job. per se. And so far they've let me hang on with doing the other stuff I'm doing. I'm like, I'm reading the house. Okay, let's go with that. That works. So
if there's a spirit, I'll acknowledge them, but let's just deal with that. Let me work this way.
Yeah. Well, I did have to do that. I did go to a consultation that I just thought was going to be, your regular feng shui consultation. And I got there and it was a mother with her 3 girls. And she said, you're here because there's like 24 entities in my girls' rooms. Like, they're all over and they won't let them sleep. And I'm like, no, you got the wrong person. That's not what I do, And she asked me if I would try. And I'm like, oh, shit. Let's give this a go. I don't really know what I'm doing, but we sat down on the floor and I did a salt burn in the middle of all of us. And we opened all the girls' rooms and then we opened a door to the outside. And I just said, how many of you guys are here? And they said 24. And I said, you're scaring the girls. We can't have this, thank you for your, and some of them said, well, no, we're here to protect the girls. And I just said, okay. And if that's okay with them, then you can stay. But like, you can't be waking them up. You can't be moving stuff around in their rooms. You can't be making noise and opening and closing the doors and the lights and all this stuff. They're 3 little girls. They're scared shitless. So in the end, all but 6, we thanked them for their help and their services. All but 6 left. And the 6 promised to not freak the girls out. And so far, so good. It's been about 2 years since I did that one. And I talked to the mom probably
the girls
6 months
into
away.
mediumship training then?
They're probably still a little freaked out by the whole thing. But, it's like you just never know what you're going to encounter when you go to someone's home. I'm like, I didn't realize I was going to perform an exorcism today,
Right. And it's kind of like, okay, so, and now you're now doing them virtual, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to get flown. You don't have to hit a plane and fly over into the UK to do it. You can FaceTime, Zoom call.
I do them on FaceTime because it's easier to move around the camera so people can show me their homes. But I do have clients that fly me around. I mean, I just had one that flew me out and flew me back on her plane to Aspen for her place.
Cool.
So, hey, man, if you want to fly me, fly me. If you want to do it virtual, I do them virtual all over the place. I've done them in Monaco, all over the UK, Ireland, all over the place. And it works both ways. I was talking to somebody else online and, you can feel energy the way we're talking just as much as if I was in the room with you. Right. So it works either way.
Right. And you're not stuck by, having to fly and all that. What has been your hardest?
Consultation?
Uh-huh.
I'd say the girls, that one that I just shared was probably one of my hardest because I was scared. I wasn't, I'm not trained for that. And I didn't know that I could help them. And then, so I didn't know if I couldn't make that better for them, if they would feel like the consultation wasn't good. Other than that, I'd say some of the more challenging ones are when I have a wife or a husband, but it's one partner who really wants to move things along and the other one that's completely blocking them, whether it's energetically or physically from doing it. Those are tough. It's hard when I do a lot of decluttering because decluttering is so emotionally attached for so many people. And you can see my office. I mean, I'm not a minimalist by any means, but everything I have, I know exactly what it is, why I have it, and it's intentional. It's either very special or it's there for a purpose, I had this one client and she was in Sedona, lovely, lovely woman. And she came to me because she just couldn't find another relationship. She was divorced. She wanted a partner. She'd had a live-in partner that didn't work out either. And she was feeling like, is it me? So I went to her house and everything was in good shape. She is a Reiki healer. So I'm like, things look pretty good. I'm not sure what I'm seeing. And then this thought hit me. I go, what's under your bed? And she goes, oh, nothing, just papers. I go, what papers? And I made her pull everything out. The divorce papers were under the bed, old letters from old lovers, gifts from old lovers and boyfriends, all sorts of mementos and memorabilia from past men in her life were all shoved under her bed. And I'm like, well, this is why there's no room for a new guy to come in. You already
Right.
got all these guys sleeping with you. They're all here, you know?
Exactly. The energy is all there. And it's
Right,
like, no, we don't need that. Like,
right.
Not, I know very little about this. I know enough to get by into like a few YouTube videos into it. But like always, I don't like stuff on the top of my refrigerator.
Mm-mm.
I do not like scissors or anything underneath the bed that is like hard on relationships, cutting things.
That
like,
can also mean surgery, scissors,
Yeah.
knives, anything like that under the bed. Actually, that was us when my husband and I had multiple surgeries in a row and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And when the feng shui consultant came to my house, she goes, "What's downstairs below your bedroom?" I go, "Oh, our dining room." And we went downstairs and I had my mother's set of silver for 14 or for 12 people, my grandmother's for 12 people, mine for 12 people, directly under our bed. It's just the way it laid out.
Right.
36 knives.
Yeah. Not good. Not good.
Yep. So
Yeah.
yes, you're dead on. You're dead on with the scissors and the knives and the guns and anything like that. You don't want it anywhere near where you are resting.
Right. And it's because in my viewpoint, when you have all that stuff underneath your bed, then it's just seeping into your subconscious. Yeah.
I don't, I really, my favorite is nothing under the bed. Right. So the energy can circulate. However, I do a lot of consultations for New York City apartments and, I just did an apartment in Monaco. There's not a lot of space. And sometimes people are forced to put things under their bed. So then we have a very detailed discussion about, well, what is the least disruptive under your bed, right? So things like extra bedding, quilts, blankets, anything that's soft, pillows. I don't want running shoes because, again, like you said, the subconscious, you're going to be on the go, which means you won't sleep well. You don't want exercise clothes. You don't want computers, tablets, anything like that. Obviously, no divorce papers. Any kind of exercise equipment, people that stick their dumbbells or, things like that under the bed.
That's just going to weigh them down.
It's gonna weigh you down and it's going to wake you up because those are all very yang activities. And so you want either nothing, which is my favorite, or things that are representative of softness and very yin so that you can settle in and rest. Because, your bedroom's supposed to be for sleep, sex, and being still. That's it.
Right. And, that should be your sanctuary. If it doesn't feel like your sanctuary, time to move it.
Right. And I know for a lot of people, COVID changed the game for a lot of people and they had to move offices home. And so they had their desk and their Peloton and their bed all shoved into the same room.
That is the worst thing ever. I've been working for 20 years from home. Never put a desk in your bedroom.
I know. And I know that it was very difficult for a lot of people during that time. So I would just help them. Maybe we put a screen. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that because I am an interior designer at the heart of everything. So I need things to look aesthetically pleasing as well. But, when push came to shove, get a screen, a room divider separator so that at least at night you could open it up and put it around your desk to energetically put a blockage between the desk and your bed so that you could rest. Or the same with your Peloton or whatever. Yeah, but curtains, it's kind of hard because you'd have to hang them from something in the middle of the ceiling. So at least a screen or a room divider, you could fold it during the day and put away and have it feel like a office and then take it out at night. It's a little more user-friendly, I found. In the end.
Very cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Hadn't thought about that because I'm just like, get the fishing line, 2 hooks into the ceiling. Slide it on there.
Again, interior designer, aesthetically pleasing.
That's why I said fishing line and not like, let's go get some, 1/2-inch piping from Lowe's and some mounting brackets and go completely into like lodge mode.
That hurts my heart a little bit. It has to be pretty. Has to be pretty for me.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I hope you do good with this book. I look forward to the other 3 we have coming.
Oh, my goodness. What? Are you seeing that? Seriously?
Deadly.
Are you serious? Oh, that's a lot of work. Okay. Okay, I won't fight it. I just need help. Tell me what I'm supposed to write about. Tell me when I'm supposed to do it. And Just help me along
body
the way and I will do
chemistry,
it.
home chemistry, those two things will be nice and fun and easy to get
Wow.
through.
Oh, wow. Okay. I
Okay.
love that. Wow. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, honey, for joining us. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
later.
Thanks for
All right,
having
guys,
me.
we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.
Are you ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery and empowerment? Dive into the mystical world of Wicca with our courses guided by Lord Aeson Knight. Unveil Wicca's secrets, explore fundamental principles, and delve into essential topics like deity relationships and the purpose of rituals. Aeson Knight, a third-degree high priest, shares his wisdom through life coaching lessons, guiding you towards a brighter future. Step into the inner circle of enlightenment. Enroll today to embark on a journey toward a more empowered you. Click the link to take your first step into the magical circle.
Ready to join the Psychic Coffee Shop Network? By becoming our patron, you'll unlock exclusive content from Aeson Knight, host of the Psychic Coffee Shop podcast and co-host of the Mountain Bears podcast, alongside the tech-savvy Techie Joe. Choose from subscription options ranging from Tall $1, Grande $5, to Venti $10 per month, supporting us in covering production costs and beyond. Depending on your subscription level, enjoy discounts on private readings, free access to classes and special events, behind-the-scenes extras, and the chance to participate in station meetings. Plus, you'll get early access to new content and the opportunity to shape future topics. We'll acknowledge your support in the credits of our videos. Don't wait. Brew some magic and join us today as a valued member. Link in the show description. Aeson Knight, your gateway to a transformed life. In a world where anyone can claim to be a life coach, Aeson stands out as a true professional with the skills and qualifications to guide you on your journey to success. So why invest in a personal life coach? Let's explore the game-changing benefits Aeson brings to the table. Ever find it hard to stay committed to change on your own? Aeson's expertise ensures you stay on track. With him as your coach, that internal drive kicks in, motivating you to keep your promises and achieve your goals. Making a change is tough, but Aeson makes it 1,000 times easier. He's your unwavering support, guiding you through challenges, pushing you beyond your limits, and believing in you even when you doubt yourself. Friends are great, but they may not always want to see you succeed. Aeson, on the other hand, is dedicated solely to your success. He removes negativity and limiting beliefs, giving you the tailored support you need. Forget endless hours deciphering advice from books and videos. Aeson is your shortcut to effective change. He saves you time and money by offering personalized attention, guiding you toward the tools and lessons that will truly work for you. Ready for a better tomorrow? Book your discovery call with Aeson Knight now. Take the first step toward the life you've always dreamed of. Aeson Knight, your partner in transformation. Start your journey today.
Well, good evening, darling. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Pretty good, pretty good. So what's up? How's your day been?
It's been a pretty decent day. How about yours?
Good, doing good. Been very busy. Hello, Miss Brenda. How are you? Hey, Jude.
Brenda.
Yeah. All right. So I hear you have an Am I the Asshole for you.
I am. This one may not be as exciting as I thought it was because I picked it by title and I didn't want to read it before. So, am I the asshole for telling my fiance's cousin we wouldn't be attending an adult-only holiday? I'm going to keep this as short and sweet as possible. So my fiance's cousin is one of his best friends, and they used to go on a holiday together every year. But for the last 2 years, my fiance hasn't gone because we had a baby. Our son is 2 now, so his cousin thinks I should be fine leaving him with family so he can have my fiance on his holiday. I told him I would rather bring my son with us, but he's adamant it's an adult-only holiday, so I won't be going, which means my fiance also won't be going, because there's no way he's going to go without me. So now his cousin is upset with me because he thinks I should be fine going at this point. He has tried to compromise the length of the holiday and the destination, but it hasn't changed my mind. Am I the asshole?
Yeah,
I think this is an interesting one, at least. But go ahead.
I think that you are. Like, your child's going to be fine without you. First of all,
I can definitely understand that first year,
mm-hmm.
maybe even the first 2 years.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking around year 2, and depending upon, and I think Brenda brings up a good point, what kind of holiday justification, I think around year 2, depending upon the length of stay
Mm-hmm.
and the distance from home,
Right.
I think that's reasonable. Like,
Right.
if you're within 2 hours or so of home, 3, maybe 4,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gone for a week,
Right.
5 days, somewhere in that realm.
Right.
I think you're reasonably close enough that this is kind of an extended babysitter moment, especially if your child's with family.
Right.
I mean, without knowing if there's any medical conditions or special considerations for the kid, like severe allergies or a history that,
Right.
I mean, I can kind of see that being an issue if that were the case. But I think otherwise, there are a lot of parents that get really stuck, mothers especially, on this, my child can't survive without me. And it's like, yes, they can.
Looking at it, very much they can. And I think it's very important for the child to be able to go stay with family, go do things, go visit grandma for the weekend, because it helps them develop other relationships. And with that, I know a lot of people are a little aggravated and get into this super protective mode. And it's like, chill out. Let them go and have an adult vacation.
Yeah. And that's the way I'm reading it, is a vacation. Sorry, I now understand what Brenda was meaning.
Right.
But yeah, no, we're reading it as vacation, not like Christmas.
Right.
Well, I mean, 4th of July, I think the kid's 2. What are you going to remember?
Right.
Now asking someone to take away, a Christmas vacation away from their 2-year-old.
That's a little much.
That one is a hard no.
Right.
But if we're talking about 2 random weeks during, the year,
right.
That are not tied to a major family holiday,
Right.
like Thanksgiving, Christmas,
right.
like, or around their birthday, like I could
Right.
understand that one. Like, I don't think they're going to, yank me away from my 2-year-old
Right.
to go take a vacation during their birthday. Not just, no, I could see having issues with it. Otherwise, it's like, I think you need to get some support here, for why you're this attached.
Right.
This level of like, my child will not survive without me / I can't survive without my child.
That's a really great area for me. When they get into that mode of child cannot survive without me, that turns into Mama Dearest territory.
I mean, I don't want to say it has to get that ugly, because that was an ugly relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to get that ugly necessarily. But I think there are a lot of people that like lose their personal identity in parenting.
Right.
And I've kind of noticed this seems to be the first sign that's happened.
Right.
Is when it's like, you're never going to leave that child alone / you never want to be away from that child for any reason, for any duration. and like the best you're doing is a couple of hours with a babysitter.
Right.
That's not going to go well. Yeah, some kids with working parents got shipped off to grandmas or other relatives for the summer because of childcare issues. Yes.
Yes.
But more to the point, like your child is 2. I don't know what your career plans are. I don't know where you think I'm assuming first child. I don't know how you think this is going to get easier if you don't take breaks, if you don't have some separations. Like, I'm not saying throw your child away, like, I had a child, bye. Don't do that. But the more you acclimate this child to the idea that, you know, other people care about them, that, you know, parents and children do spend time apart. It's got to make the rest of it easier. Like if you want to go back to work and you need to enroll this child in daycare, when school starts, preschool, like you've only got a couple of years to start getting this child acclimated to the idea that sometimes mommy and daddy go away and then they come back and get me. And I have fun while they're gone, and they do whatever, and they come back and get me. And so this is already an established idea in their brain. And that, like, this is not a traumatic moment where you're like 4 or 5 years old and just, mommy and daddy love me and they're never coming back. Like, no one wants that, like, start school moment. So if you can start building that and make it so routine, especially at the age of 2 where there's not a whole lot of understanding. But they can start making the connections. That, like, 2 is a nice age. Because they get upset about everything and they're easily distracted. Like, because they are. You know, they don't remember a lot, but they're learning a lot.
And they're learning like boundaries and having their own independence and, you know, being able to be their own self. And I think that's highly, highly important and underrated, especially when you have helicopter parents.
Well, and then especially being able to just have the adult experience. And I don't mean like adult, but just literally being around other adults without the distraction, the interference, the aggravation. Because I'm sorry, if you've been doing this for 2 years, you need a break. Because I'm kind of taking it that way, that you've not taken breaks. That you're just shooting straight through motherhood, or parenthood at least, just linearly. Like, we're going to do all this. And it's like, like a lot of parents get caught up in that with the first kid, and it doesn't go well.
And by the 5th kid, they don't care. Are they home? Are they not home?
Exactly. Yeah. So no, that's not where the, you know. But yeah, no, I think this is a great opportunity. I think you're being the asshole. So I'm gonna label you. You're the asshole. So Brenda says, I worked with some women that had no idea who they were when their child turned 18 and moved out. Their whole existence was tied up in the child. And see, the secondary part of that is always going to be empty nest syndrome. And when we talk about empty nest syndrome, people think it's just that horrible feeling of who am I? And like, I don't know what to do with myself because I don't have kids. And that's one layer of it. The other layer is some couples suddenly realize that the only thing they had in common was their child.
And
And
they
it's
don't.
like, what are we doing?
Long dead because it hadn't been fed.
But they stayed together for the children, child, whichever, and didn't actually like have any problems. As in, it's not like he was abusive. It's not like she spent too much. It's not, like the classic example
Right.
of like relationship problems. No one cheated on each other, but they just fell into this rut.
Mhm.
And then suddenly you yank the child out of it, like, bye, leaving for college. And they're just looking at each other like, what the fuck are we doing here?
And furthermore, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, like, I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to be around you.
Mhm.
Everything you do annoys me. Like, because you had a buffer child.
Right.
And so all attention went to the child. The child steps out. You
Mhm.
have a whole empty nest problem.
Right.
Which sometimes actually turns into like a weird set of issues with your child, because
Right.
a lot of couples don't realize what's gone wrong, and then it gets taken out on the kid.
Right.
Like, you start doing things to pull the child back into the house, this now adult, pull them back into the house because you don't know how to handle this or what the problem is.
Right.
So, yeah. So yeah, you're the asshole. Book that family babysitter.
Yes.
Take your trip.
And
Deal
go
with the
and enjoy.
discomfort. Well, more importantly, deal with the discomfort.
Mhm.
Because that's going to be your first hurdle. Is you're going to feel like a horrible parent. You're going to feel like you've abandoned your child. You're going to go through grief. Like, you're going to go through all the emotions. So make sure this is not a sit around and do nothing vacation.
Right.
Like, you're going to have to be active and work through all your feelings.
Right.
So yeah, I would also suggest, if this is booked out a little bit, maybe try to schedule at least a couple of therapy appointments.
And
so you
maybe
can get some
some
coping skills.
Right. And get some time away alone. Just by yourself. Like, let the cousin, the aunt, the grandmother, whoever, have them overnight.
Yeah. Well, start simple.
Right.
Let them have them for a couple of hours.
Right.
Child still alive. Child still survived. Awesome. Let them have them half a day.
Right.
Child still survived. Child is still alive. Go for a day.
Right.
Go for an overnight.
And let it build up.
Yeah. That way you're not just all of a sudden, like, someone's convinced you to do this. The first time you're away from your child is when you board an airplane or hop in the car to drive hours from home, because you're going to have a meltdown.
Right.
Probably worse than your child. Your child's going to be fine.
Right.
Like, they may
Child's
cry,
gonna
they
be
may
like,
get a little
oh,
upset.
bye.
Yeah, there's going to be some initial confusion.
Uh-huh.
But they'll work through that pretty quickly, especially with a good family member that's like, okay, who's ready for ice cream?
Right.
Because I'll tell you right now, I'm all about bribing small children to distract and disorient.
Exactly. All right, so the poll is up. Let's check on our relationship advice one.
All right, so moving right along. How do I, 33 female, stop being too sensitive over my boyfriend, 30 male, not matching my energy when it comes to communication? I am very new to dating in this day and age. I've been divorced for about a year, and I was with my ex-husband for 15 years. I'm struggling with being a girlfriend. I was a wife for over a decade to an alcoholic narcissist. I'm used to doing wife things and being available all the time. I recognize that some of my issues are trauma responses to the emotional abuse I went through, but also some things I question. For example, my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months. In the beginning, he was more chatty, even in text, but as we've grown more comfortable and familiar, he has not been quite as responsive. He says he's not big on texting and doesn't even talk on his own to his own family a lot. But I see him on his phone a lot when we are together. He does have ADD, so I can understand getting lost in a wormhole on social media or reading a text and forgetting to respond. At the same time, though, I keep hearing the phrase, if he wanted to, he would. I've considered matching his energy and not responding right away, but that's not who I am. It bothers me that at the end of the day, I can't have a conversation with him about our days or whatnot, much like we used to do in the beginning. He's a really great guy otherwise. It's probably the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. I just sometimes feel lost on how to be a girlfriend, like I'm not doing it right or being too sensitive. Am I? Or is this a sign we may not be as compatible as I had hoped? Side note, I have brought it up to him and he does better for a little while, but then goes quiet again. I don't want to keep bringing it up because that seems like I'm nagging. And also, I'm aware he has his own life. I'm not asking for constant communication or access.
Well, my viewpoint, I think you got to chill. Boy ain't trying to do a daily report to you. You're not his parole officer.
I think what I'm seeing here is you got out of a 15-year relationship, and if we assume your alcoholic narcissist ex was an actual alcoholic narcissist ex, you've been told what to think, what to feel, how to act, and you've gotten used to getting this constant, whether it was directly or indirectly, reading this person or reading their messages, hearing their voice, telling you what to do, what to think, how to move, what to feel all the time.
Right.
So now you're out here in the dating world,
right,
which is very different from being married. And so you have, gaps of time where you're not around each other.
right.
But additionally, you're with someone who isn't constantly telling you what to think and how to feel and what to do, who isn't constantly breeding this never-ending chaos.
Right.
That you have to sort through and deal with and save him, and you don't have to do that. You're having problems understanding that everything's okay when you hear nothing.
Right.
Because you don't know how to react to nothing.
Right.
Because that starts to feel like silent treatment, which is very unnerving around a narcissist. It usually means they are breaking you down for something you did. They're not going to tell you what it is, and expecting you to respond by doing everything to win their good graces. So I think you're having this panic, and you don't know how to deal with it because you, quite frankly, if you were 33 and you were in a 15-year relationship, you basically turned 18 and got married. So for most people, there is some pre-18 dating, but I can understand after 15 years, you've totally forgotten that world, and that world operated totally differently. Like, that was cute, fun dating. Then you did the serious marriage, you've come out of that, and now you're trying to do adult dating.
Right.
And that works a
That's
lot
different
different.
ballgame.
Yeah.
And it's a good different ballgame. But you don't need constant communication. And if you talk all the time or you talk every night, what are you going to say on Friday night when y'all go for dates? What are you going to say? And quite frankly, sometimes it's not necessary. Especially with ADA, they require necessary information, not non-necessary information.
Right. So I think maybe if I could offer a suggestion relationship-wise, see if you can play this differently. Instead of asking for communication or trying to match his energy,
right?
See if you can do this. literally set a schedule with him.
Uh-huh.
Have him set an alarm.
Right.
To legitimately send you a message
Mm-hmm.
every, let's start at, 24 hours.
Right. Okay.
And tell you if everything is okay or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can tell him if you're okay.
Right.
And if you need to talk that through,
Mm-hmm.
ask him
Mm-hmm.
if he can talk.
Right.
And if he says no, respect that.
Right.
It's not anger. It's not frustration. It's not, oh, God, this woman again. That's not the reaction. The reaction is, no, I can't talk right now. That's it. There's no meaning. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part of narcissism and being in that relationship is that so many things get made your fault that have nothing to do with you. Or like they're tangentially tiny things that are blown so far out of proportion that, like, oh my God, you didn't use a coaster. Like, you damn near cost me my career.
Right.
Like, you're driving me crazy. I just can't live like this. That's kind of a narcissistic energy. Right. And it's like, okay, I didn't use a coaster. Get over yourself. Is the normal human response. Like, it's not that big a deal. Little bit of a bigger deal on really old furniture. But otherwise, if we're talking like Formica countertops and there's a water ring, it's not a big deal. But even on the old furniture, just like clean up after yourself. That's a conversation, not a whole drama fest.
Well, and I think that people get really overloaded nowadays in this thought that they need to talk every night or talk every day. No, you don't.
I mean, there's a fair amount of, like, new relationship energy tends to lean that way. Is a lot of early connection, and I think some people expect that to just continue forever because that's what they need. And I think some of those people don't realize you've been in some really bad relationships where you've become reliant on, like, a literal stream of consciousness to help navigate. Like, you've been reading all the signs, the symbols, the words, the text, the messages. You've looked for the deeper meaning. You've tried to anticipate all their needs to like, just keep things happy. They weren't happy. They were never happy. They were just convenient for the person you were with. Because you did everything to maintain their mood. And then it still blew up inevitably over something stupid. So coming off of that, I'm sure that the relationship, the communication energy feels really dead.
Right.
Like, it's hard to not date a narcissist and get that energy level.
Right.
Like, so I think it's let's go fix the expectations of being a normal human in an adult relationship with an otherwise healthy partner.
Right.
And then reevaluate, like, is this actually the relationship you want to be?
Right. And also look at your triggers. Is it that he's not communicating with you? Like, I tell you, point blank, one of mine is me sending you an email and not getting replied back. Yeah, I'm waiting. That annoys the hell out of me. But that's me. And that's coming from a viewpoint of, you're not acknowledging anything I say. Is it true? No. Is it what occurs a lot in my mental stuff? Yeah. So I can understand her feeling like, well, I'm always talking and he's not talking. He may not have something to say.
That's a good one. Or feel like this is not a place where I really have an opinion.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that can sometimes be, again, per the narcissist conversation, is
Right.
creating these gaps of silence so that you start filling in and you just blather. So they can find reasons to be angry and upset with you and tell you what you did wrong.
Right.
So that's a problem. But additionally, sometimes it can also be, especially considering the ADD, is conversations can become difficult.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like sending someone a message and getting a response, that's doable. Having the clear ability to say, I'm sorry, I just can't talk right now, and having that respected,
Right,
is easy to handle. But when you step into opening your messenger, seeing, like hearing the sound, seeing the message, sometimes there can really be that immediate thought, whether you have ADD or not, but especially in ADD, ADHD, of like, I know where this is going. I'm going to lose the next 4 hours of my life down a conversational rabbit hole
over what she's having for dinner.
Over what she's having for dinner, over why I haven't called her, over, and we have to pick it apart. And it's tedious, it's painful, and especially in ADD, ADHD, it's too much. It's overwhelming. It's just like, I don't want to push the boulder up the hill today. I can't do it. I'm tired. I want to do other things. I want to watch TV. I can't do it. That's why I was saying, if you can break this down to every 24 hours, we're going to exchange 2 messages. Like 2 from me, 2 from you. Maybe a third. I have the ability to say no without it becoming a fight. You created something doable.
Right.
Like, very quickly, as long as it follows the pattern, it's 3 fucking messages. At worst, I'm signing up myself every 24 hours, 3 messages.
Right. But then, don't be surprised that, you're hanging out and he's quiet. He already said everything.
What can we talk about?
Yeah.
So it does. I mean, and again, I don't think that's asking for too much. I think that breaks it down to something doable. And then in the meantime, you're going to have to work through some of the letting go of your ex.
Right.
That no matter how that ended and how much you think that door is closed, you're still conditioned.
Right.
For a narcissistic partner, an alcoholic partner, a partner who needs someone else to meet all their needs and make them feel amazing while they like chip away at you, and navigating that mess, you've got to let go of that partner, and that takes longer.
And it's going to take even longer at times because you're going to hit those what I call echoes of the past. And this is probably one of them.
He's going to say something wrong. Well, I say this definitely is, it feels like silent treatment, which if you've been with someone who's narcissistic, that's silent treatment. Because that's when you know they're angry at you for something. They're not going to tell you what it is. And you just have to play like, a guessing game.
Right. Is it the red ball? No, it's not the red ball. Is it the blue ball? No, it's not the blue ball. Is it the red fentanyl ball? Yep, it's the red fentanyl ball I'm mad at.
Is it because the counter in the bathroom is messy? Is it because dinner was late? Is it because I forgot to get the mail out of the mailbox? Is it because I didn't fill the car up with gas, even though it was like almost full. It was like 7/8. Is it because, and you can just go down a rabbit hole,
Right,
and work yourself crazy. And maybe they tell you what it was, or maybe you accomplish what it was, or maybe they just move on. And you may never know.
mm-hmm.
And yet, so you repeat this pattern every time thinking you can fix it.
Right.
You can't
And you
fix
can't.
anything with someone who isn't talking.
Well, you
You're
can't
just
fix anything with someone
buckshotting.
right, but right now, with the current relationship, there's nothing wrong.
Technically, no. Technically, no.
Yeah.
So I changed the communication expectation.
Right.
Try to get some support, and yeah, I think you might find this isn't as bad as you think it is.
Very much so. All right, let's take a look at the poll.
All right.
Ooh,
Am I?
Paul has agreed. You are an asshole for not wanting to take an adult vacation
Because
without your child. Yes.
So, yeah, not surprising there. I think that's the best judgment on that one. Hate calling people assholes, but in this context, please understand. It's not that you're an asshole. You're trying to be a great parent, and that's an amazing, wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your approach isn't going to lead you where you think it's going to lead.
No, it's going to lead you to resentment from your partner. It's going to lead you to resentment from your child. It's going to just lead you into a field day of destructive behavior that you will regret in 18 years.
Well, I was going to say, you can't be a good parent if you can't be a healthy adult.
Right.
And like, you've got to be able to maintain those two.
Right.
Like, that's part of the thing. Like,
Okay.
You divorce yourself from healthy adulthood, I'm going to tell you right now, your parenting is not going to go well.
No.
Because the goal of parenting is to take this thing you created and turn it into an adult. How do you do that if you don't know how to help the adult?
Right. All right, guys. So we will be back on on Thursday at 8 p.m. for the energy overview for July.
We will.
Yeah. Until then, guys, we hope you have a great day. I'll be on later tonight to take calls, and we'll see you later. Oh,
I was going to say, you forgot some people. They're really important.
Yeah.
So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes. All right, guys. Have a great evening.
Bye.